California budget surplus, Elon Musk, gun control, and more. These are all the topics we're going to chat about today. Welcome to Relevant Rants. This is what, our third, fourth one that we're doing here?
Yeah, we're trying to be relevant today, right, Scott?
You know what? We are relevant as can be. And you know what? The topics are flowing out. You know what I love that, Mike? You just came right out of the chute. This is what we're talking about today. These are our relevant rants.
You have raised the dress code, my friend.
I did. You know what?
Suit and tie, just come from the courthouse.
I apologize. I'm very apologetic. I don't like working Fridays. I was unfortunately at court. I'm back here because, you know what? One thing more important than court to me on Fridays is to rant. I am here to rant.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were going to say golf, but...
No, I wish. I wish. And you know what? Based on that, you know what? I know we have. Mike just mentioned some good topics. Tom, what were you going to discuss right now?
This is something. Now, this weekend is the pro and amateur division of the Mr. California.
Okay.
And so
bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that I won that title in 1985.
1985.
What that carries some weight to it because
I was 4.
Huh?
I was 4.
Well, that's interesting. You weren't even born, Alec. But what it is I like what Elon Musk said yesterday. I think it was yesterday when he says California is a one-party state. I mean, basically, we've seen the results of that even through the recall election of Newsom. I don't care how you feel about him, but one party puts him in, one party doesn't let him out. And I believe that you need two opinions. I don't. When we sit down, Scott, we don't always agree. Mike,
right.
And we don't always agree. Alex is getting to know me, but I mean, we need two different opinions. I know my wife and I don't always agree. We need two parties in this state, and I'm not saying it's got to be Republican. I'm just saying an opposite view of where California is going because we're going in the toilet.
Okay.
If you look at it, I mean, there may be a budget surplus. But what's it being spent on? So I'm out there saying, as we go through it, I am moving. God is moving me to Tennessee. A lot of people are like, first impression is that's 2 years. They're like, oh, you're leaving California. I go, no, I love California.
Right.
I just don't like what's happening to it.
Right.
Exactly.
I got so many people in the oil industry that are not able to work, and we got an oil crisis in America. We're all paying, what,
$6,
$7
high sixes, absolutely.
And we know that all we have to do is drill. And I get the economy. I don't want I'm not the economy, the ecological or the climate. But I think there's a happy medium.
But you know what? That is such an interesting topic because it brings up so many issues.
And passionate issues.
Very passionate because our country, it was basically founded and has substantiated itself as a two-party country, right? Mm-hmm. But because of that, what you just said goes to so many topics because California is blue or Democrat. Yeah. Other states will always be, whether it's Nebraska, we'll always say that is a red state, right? And then we have those that are in the middle. Mm-hmm. Because of that, the laws that come through are going to flow one way or another. Right now, when the president's a Democrat, when Congress is a Democrat, we see the way the law ends up flowing. The fear is now there's almost, if the Republicans take over next year, right, there's this certain unbalance that happens.
Yeah, and I wouldn't want that either.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, it's like you're looking for a representation of all people. You in the court, we get to be judged by a jury of our peers.
And that's what I was going to say. And that almost brings up, is the Electoral College good? Yeah. The diverse, and I don't want to get off topic for what you brought up, but it brings up so many political issues. Yeah. Going back to California, I know instead of looking political, what do you think either changed or brought us to this point? Do you think it's because people have left? California's always been a little bit blue, I would say. Yeah. We've had Republican years and great Republican governors.
I think it's the density of the population and the opinion. And I love, and of course in the ministry, I love everybody who needs social services. My wife's in the public school system. Mm-hmm. I mean, I get that, but I think there's a balance, and we're just one way versus the rest have to be, especially being from Bakersfield. Here in Bakersfield, we lean more on a conservative
I would say so.
View. Mm-hmm. But as we do, I think that both sides get to be heard. Mm-hmm. And I love that because I don't want to go all one way, and I'm not even a Republican by nature. I was a Democrat when I first signed up to vote back, and I voted for Jimmy Carter.
Do you think it has anything to do with rural versus urban? Like you look at a lot of states they're very rural. Mm-hmm. They lean a certain way. In California, basically, we're bookended by San Diego, San Francisco. Yeah. Then we have some big, cities in the middle. Not a lot of farmland, not a lot of rural areas. Do you think that has a lot to do with it?
Well, I think it has to do with people's opinion. I was in farming, and
I would agree with that.
I was in farming in San Joaquin Valley fed a seventh of the world.
Right.
You know, and now ag's bad. But we got to have food. I mean,
Right.
so I mean, I worked for a company that was very progressive. Sunroll was very progressive on the environment. You know, we farmed in Irvine where they had the most strict pesticide
Right.
regulations in the world. But we were trying to work with predator insects. And I know, Alex, your wife's, you know, a environmental archaeologist.
Biologist.
Biologist.
But she's probably in a minor in archaeology.
Yeah, and so I'm just saying there's got to be conversation
Right.
from two different belief systems to get the bubble back in the middle.
Well, I tell you what, I think that is a perfect time where it literally segues, I think, Mike, into what you want to talk about, because when we get to the point where it's an unbalanced political ground, now we walk into this thing where, as you said earlier, California is a mess. We have all this inflation. We have gas prices through the roof. And all of a sudden, we have found ourselves with a surplus. And what we're going to do. Why don't you explain that, Mike?
Well, I know we were talking about California. We were talking about Elon Musk. We were talking about all these things. And
I'm not saying he's the best guy to listen to.
No, but I like
it's an opinion, a valued opinion.
I so far like the guy, right? I don't know a lot about him, so carry that with a grain of salt. But he's talking about we're already in a recession and all this stuff, and we just came out of everybody knows the last couple of years what's been happening, and so now you're talking about California being a one-party state. Well, we have a budget surplus while everybody else is in recession, inflation, the gas prices, everything. I mean, even Jeff Bezos has talked about hit Biden on inflation, but with California, they have $100 million budget surplus now.
There's a lot of money, and like you said, it goes back to right now how it's going to be spent, and when there's a one party involved with how that money is going to go out, I think that's where the argument comes.
Hey, I'd like to see the gas tax kind of roll back a little.
Wouldn't it be a little bit?
Well, you would think with the budget surplus, we have extra money. Like, let's lower the taxes. No. Let's take the people that are paying taxes and give their money to the people that aren't paying taxes. Like that's to me, like as a taxpayer, as someone who's run a successful business for a lot of years, frustrating, frankly.
And I think both of you, that is such a heavy ideological topic, because when we start talking about party ideology, and then we go to, okay, now we have this huge sum of money we need to disperse. How do we do it? Well, it's basically going to be the parties that are in charge that do it. And typically just on our own ideology, we're not going to agree. We're not going to agree. I don't want to say that. A lot of people have a hard time just having it as a social giving. Let's give it to welfare. Let's give it to this type of abuse. I get that. And I think your opinion, Mike, is very common. The people that work, the people that are hardworking, always have a workmanlike attitude, right? I mean, that's where you're saying.
I grew up in the Central Valley in a farming family.
Right.
So, naturally we're going to have those kind of values, but we have this budget surplus, and yet we see and it's gotten terrible in Bakersfield. Used to be okay, well, it's not that bad, right? The homeless population just everywhere, and you don't feel safe. We had a friend of ours whose car just had their catalytic converter stolen last night from the back parking lot.
Right. Oh, right here.
Right here. Last night.
Let me ask you this. I want to get you involved, Alex.
Yeah,
as a younger person or one of the younger parties here.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you read this? I mean, you were kind of raised with this blue state.
Yes.
How do you see it, and how do you think your ideology is a little different?
I just see them digging a metaphorical grave in terms of this state, because I'm seeing right now, I think Bakersfield and Kern County in general is surviving and borderline thriving compared to the rest of the blueness of California. But we're seeing places like San Francisco and just any big city here is just becoming another Detroit.
Yes.
And it's really depressing, because it's my wife loves San Francisco, and then she's even seeing
it's no longer
oh my
Howard
gosh.
Brown. I will give you that.
Yes.
The homeless is out of control.
And and I'm all for that, because there again, I mean, I'm under a thing with the church that we're looking after the poor, the widow, and the orphans, and I'm all about that. Because giving to social services. My wife's superintendent of the school district.
Well, we're big supporters of Kicks for Kids, and they do a lot of stuff with the
and so I don't want people to misunderstand me.
Right.
I understand the need.
Oh, absolutely.
But I'm just seeing that the bubble is going just one way.
Right.
You know what? I think the way our country was founded, and even if we go back to not, just horrible history, but let's just say Roosevelt and the New Deal. The way our system was set up, the social system, the welfare, and give a leg up and help someone when they're down. And I think this is in all facets of our life. So many things decisions we make are with the best intent and the best heart. We go into it, And as over time goes by, sometimes we take advantage of this, or we take advantage of this, or another group comes up that needs a little more money that at the time it sounds good, but because of the taking advantage, now we're looking at 80 years, 85 years as progressed, and it just seems like there's a whole lot of pockets of people that have just taken for a long time.
Yeah, and as we look at this, I'm not saying that we got to go the other way, all one way.
Right.
There just needs to be a balance.
No, I agree.
And that's why I used to be on a corporation called the Latino Corporation.
Right.
Obviously I'm not Latino, but I was able to bring in a different balance. Richard Ramos is a great president of that corporation, do a lot of great things, but I was a balance on there just even for us. And, we used to always have phone calls, and Richard goes, Tom's the token. Well, he would, but I'm just saying I brought in a different perspective.
No, I agree.
And I loved what we did. We came in with the Latino community, and we helped in the prisons, we helped in education, we helped in in just social services, and so with parenting classes. So I'm on kind of that borderline, but for the sake of California, I think that it needs to come back into the middle somehow.
Well, it's sad because I agree with you. I love the state. I love the weather, the beauty. All of our friends and family are here.
Yeah.
But the everything else that's going on, the human factor basically, is just brought it down.
Well, let me draw a couple similarities, and it kind of gets to where I'm going with my topic. What's interesting is I was looking at the the horrible event that happened last week in Buffalo. There was a mass shooting, and immediately when we have an event like that, it raises issues such as gun control, Second Amendment. What do? I think with New York, and I'm not trying to compare it to, but New York, similar to California, has extremely strict gun laws, right? They have these red gun laws.
Blue.
And then, I think they're called. There's new laws that are called red laws that based on if you had any type of past mental abuse or mental illness.
Red flag laws.
Red flag. Okay, now I know.
You're still on politics.
No. No, can I tell you what? Mike nailed it. It's red flag laws. And they're saying now the particular person, he was 18 years old. He ends up killing 10 people, injuring others. He should have been flagged based on his past, based on things. So if we look at it, and I'm going to throw this to the group.
Yeah.
Whether you're right or left, how do we regulate? Is there a way to regulate guns, or regulate the people that purchase them so these type of events don't happen?
I'm all for the waiting law, the check law.
Yes.
I am all for that. I mean,
Right.
I grew up as a gun family.
Right.
I do. I still have guns. I own guns. All my family are gun owners.
So on the waiting law, what about so let's hit the mental. Do you believe there should be restrictions for those that might have, some mental disabilities in their past?
I think there has to be some.
I agree.
A modicum of responsibility that we are out there making sure people are taken care of. I mean, mental health is a big thing that I'm part of with 911 at Ease.
Sure.
We've had that. I mean, I'm a big mental health advocate for our first responders and everybody.
Right.
Trauma happens, and I think, as a lot of us have trauma in our lives, sometimes we know that, it affects us mentally.
Well,
Right.
I do think that they need to. I think there's too much of an influence on some of those laws, right?
Yes.
So there's people that shouldn't be allowed to have guns
Right.
that do. There's also, because of those laws,
there's definitely that,
people that should be okay with it that aren't.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's more of how do we manage
Govern
it or
that.
govern
Yes.
that, and I think that really, if we have to be honest with ourselves, this is an issue. I don't care if you're right or left politically. This is a very hard issue because many times, even if we come up with a perfect law, administering that law is what's difficult.
It's the human factor, right?
Yeah,
the
yeah,
humans
many
will
times
mess
it
everything
is.
up.
Yes.
Well, as I've gone to Tennessee many times now, a lot of times they have open carry. That scares me sometimes.
Yes.
You know,
Absolutely.
I mean, I'll go in, I'll go, holy smokes, that's wow. There it is. But I mean, I'm for it if they're the right person and they're okay and that kind of thing, But I'm just saying, it's like
I'll let you-
it's like completely opposite way, and I'm not saying that's wrong. I don't want to get a bad rap going to Tennessee or
Right.
my daughter who lives there. But I'm just saying, there's got to be a balance. I think we're talking. There's got to be a balance, and there's a lot of people will say, well, who makes the rules? I think we make the rules. I think it takes conversation. We've all talked to people on the other side of the aisle. We've all worked with that kind of thing. So I think there has to just be conversation, which I'm a big advocate for conversation with people. I like to know humans. I like to get to understand where their thoughts are coming from. I love that.
Well, Alec, give us this young point of view.
Yeah, the young point of view. So what I'm noticing and what I'm kind of like as I'm getting older, I'm starting to realize that yes, it's a mental health crisis, not a gun issue. And so honestly, I would, instead of seeing certain types of weapons bans or like, oh, you can only have X amount of rounds in your magazine and stuff like that, we need to start just improving the background check. Like the background check is actually really well done already, but it's like, I really like the idea of red flag laws rather than being like, okay, you can't have some sort of attachment on your weapon that makes it more accurate because they say, oh, that's bad if it's more accurate. But it's like, in a self-defense kind of way, you want to be more accurate. So why are you preventing these stupid, like...
some type of carry-on law?
Well, the reality is, I don't think we need more laws. We have plenty of laws regarding this stuff. Exactly.
Well, and I think actually this is what this most recent tragedy did, because New York had gun laws. They had the red flag laws, and this person who should have fallen in every category for that based on his past still got through it, still was able to get a gun, still was able to drive a couple hours away, even had planned this for a while. So I think it definitely brings up discussion each time we do this.
Well, the more laws we have, the more confusing it is, the harder it is to enforce them.
We need to work on the administration.
Well, Scott, as an attorney, I think you're an expert in this area about the laws. Are the laws applied?
Well, I think that's the difficult, and I think it alludes to what Mike said. There are plenty of laws. How are we going to use these laws to govern them on the body? We're actually, and listen, I know we're a big country, so I hate getting on one side or another, but I think taking these laws and putting them in a way where it's kind of just, I guess it's the least complicated possible, right? But it still protects people. That's so difficult because a lot of times we get involved with complications. We get involved with how did an 18-year-old who had prior mental illness, right, have the opportunity to do this when he should have hit every box when it comes to a gun? You know what? It does. It opens a whole lot of topics.
We're not going to solve it.
We're not going to solve it today.
We're just ranting about this, and I can stand on both sides of it. And I think that's what we have to do, right?
Right.
Is we got to see each
just
other's
keep
point
talking.
of views, understand them, and have conversation. And I love conversation.
So we have another Relevant Rants wrapped up for today, guys.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Is there anything we need to mention?
Yeah, we want to talk about dailyfreedom.org.
Excellent.
And dailyfreedom.org, we put together a compilation of videos for all of you guys based on our mission statement here at 511 Media and MLH Productions, which is to promote the values of faith, family, and freedom, and support the organizations doing the work behind those values.
Well, and I think faith, family, and freedom, as we talk about on the shows, is the fact that you can have that in Christ.
Yeah.
And you can have it in something else, because not all of our audience is going to believe how we do. And I think I don't mind that either.
Right.
I love salvation in Christ, and I get that other people, may have a different belief. And I love to talk to them about that too. And all I ask is, how does that work for you?
So one more time, Mike, what was that website?
Dailyfreedom.org.
Dailyfreedom.org.
So we're have these videos that everybody be able to have access to, but we're also going to be sending daily encouraging emails with the scripture and a daily devotion. And we have a lot of other big things we're working on. And so if you sign up for that, you can get access to those videos. We'll send you the emails with the daily devotions, but we'll also let you know what's going on with all of the different things that we're working on here behind the scenes.
Excellent, guys. Hey, thank you for letting us come into your house today.
Yeah.
Relevant Rants.
God bless.